The famous five. Five run away together. The first few chapters of the book may seem boring about the sticks fighting with the five. But I tell you, things really begin to spice up later. A new adventure is secretly awaiting the five at Kiran Island, although they don't know it. For now, they just have to put up with the horrid sticks. Want to know how they do it? Then keep watching till the end. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel Advaith's Pod. In today's episode, we are going to continue with 5 Run Away Together. Before we do, however, let's have a recap of what we saw last episode. Previously, we saw that Anne, Julian and Dick had come 3 weeks late to Kiran Cottage and George was very lonely. We also discovered that there was a new cook, Miss Stick. Her dog, Stinker, although his real name was Stinker, and her son, Edgar, who always sang silly songs about George. Aunt Fanny was also very ill. In the end, the 5 decided to go for a picnic, and so they did. So now that the recap has been completed, let's start with the 3rd chapter, shall we? Chapter 3. A Nasty Shock. George had given her boat to be fixed and repainted, and it wasn't quite ready yet. It was to have a last coat of paint on it, which was red in color, as per George's choice. However, the paint would only dry tomorrow, so they decided to just have a picnic on the beach. The sandwiches weren't very nice. After eating, the 5 went for a walk along the cliff top. They had a wonderful view of the wonderful island. They were all chatting and laughing as they walked until Julian noticed something on the island. A spire of smoke. Someone was on their island. Then suddenly the smoke disappeared into thin air. Seeing as it had gone, the 5 continued walking. After a while, the 5 turned back as it was almost tea time. No more smoke came from the island. It must have been a steamer. A surprise was waiting for them at Kiran Cottage. Edgar was reading one of Julian's books. Not only that, but he said that he also went into Uncle Quentin's study.
What?
George threatened that she would call her father, but Edgar didn't seem scared. George desperately ran around the house, calling for both her parents now, but no one responded. George demanded Edgar to tell her where they were, but Edgar didn't say. There was a resounding slap, and Edgar told them that both her parents had gone to the hospital as Aunt Fanny had gotten very ill out of the blue. Edgar slipped out of the room, shutting the door behind him. The kitchen door was slammed too. The 4 children stared at each other, feeling sorry and dismayed. Poor Aunt Fanny. Julian found a note in the mirror and gave it to George. Chapter 4. A few little upsets. George read the note out loud. Dear George, your mother has suddenly become very ill, and I have gone with her to the hospital. I will not leave her until she becomes better, and that may be in a week's time. Please manage until we come back. Your loving Father. George buried her face under the pillow, crying. Julian and Dick calmed her down and said that she would feel better after tea. Julian went to the kitchen to ask Miss Stick for tea, and the others thought it was rather brave of him. Miss Stick refused, and Julian said that if she didn't get the tea, he would get it himself. Mrs. Stick stared at him, and Julian did the same to her. Miss Stick dropped her eyes first and agreed to give them tea. But she said that any nonsense from them would lead to no other meals, and Julian surprisingly responded that he would go to the police if any other nonsense was given from her. This made Miss Stick a lot more polite. Julian went back to the others and told them that tea was coming. Nobody noticed what they even ate for tea, but they all felt better afterwards. From the kitchen, they heard a song. Julian got up. Edgar was alone. Julian told him to come out and have an honest fight. Becoming panicky, Edgar called his mother when Julian pulled at his nose. Miss Stick screamed when she saw what Julian was doing. Then Julian called Tinker Stinker, and this made Miss Stick mutter in fury and anger. The five went to sit in the garden when Timmy leapt for Stinker. Miss Stick came out with a stick and Julian grabbed the watering hose. How ironic! Edgar rushed indoors, remembering what had happened to him before. Miss Stick was so angry, she threatened to poison Tim. George was horrified at the thought. The telephone bell suddenly rang and George picked up. After the call, she put down the receiver and said that they couldn't know about Aunt Fanny until the day after next. So guys, that's it for the third and fourth chapters of 5 Run Away Together. How surprising it was when we found out that Aunt Fanny was at the hospital. If you enjoyed, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, and turn on post notifications to get notified whenever I upload a video. Bye guys!